Hi, welcome to the Gamesplainer. I'm Jeff the Gamesplainer and today I'm gamesplaining Power Grid. Power Grid is an old game. It came out originally in 2004. It's developed by Freedom & Freeze and it's one of the classics. It's a game that sits in amongst all of these games that there's almost an expectation that people have this game. And I have avoided playing it simply because it looks a bit old on the shelf. I have done this set of videos simply because I had someone hand me a copy and say, here, I need you to do some videos of this game so I know how to play it. And I looked at it and go, oh yeah, okay. And it's taken me a while to get to actually playing it and then get the video done. I was hoping to get a couple of extra plays in. I've only managed to get the one play in, but that's okay. I get a feel for how the game works. The problem with this game is that if you read the rules, it doesn't sit there's a lot of information in the text in the rules, and that information doesn't necessarily sit with you. As I said, I've played the game and I was finding that even getting to the end of the game, I was still using the bit of card that comes with it to say, this is what happens, this is what happens, this is what happens. And by that stage in the game, I shouldn't be anymore. There's something about it that doesn't quite sit right. The rules, if you read them, they're fairly hefty and you kind of go, oh, and this, and then this happens, but if this happens, that happens. And there's a lot of stuff going on with it. But if you actually look at someone playing the game itself, you go, oh, that's pretty easy. That's straightforward. That's straightforward. And that straightforwardness to it is kind of, we're in two ballparks. There's really easy, really straightforward, and just stuff happens. And then there's this, oh, but if this happens, but if this happens. I don't know another way to write a rule book, but this one doesn't feel comfortable. I'm sure it is, but it doesn't feel comfortable. The actual production on the game is fine. There's map on both sides of the board, and one's in America, one's in Europe. That's absolutely fine. It's well balanced. It's got everything going for it that it should have going for it. But it just seems like a tough game to get to the table and a tough game to play once it's on the table, but at the same time, not tough at all. Now, the bigger issue that I found with the play I had, and look, I have only had one play of this game, so I may be wrong on this, but I found that there's a variation you can do right at the beginning, which allows you to not quite take a space in the first round till you can build some things up and then take a whole bunch of spaces. And that's really cool. I like that that's there, but I did that and I noticed that from the point that I did that, I had lost the game already and felt very unbalanced, very much, you've won this. I'm just fighting to kind of catch up now, rather than what it should be, which is, I've just retained this much money so I can buy a whole bunch of stuff next turn, which is what it feels like it should be. But the problem is that the more stuff you have on the board that you're able to power, the more money you're going to get as an income. So having more powered places on the board at the very beginning of the game is super important, because even though it may only mean $10 extra, it's $10 extra each round. And so the more you have, the higher that there's kind of a table of income. So it's not just a $10 difference. It's not $10 per city. It's $10 for 2 cities and $12 for 3, or I'm making these numbers up, but it gradually increases until it's actually quite a vast difference when we get up to the higher numbers of cities that are powered, that you really need to be at that top level of cities being powered each turn to be able to get the income, to be able to do stuff with that income. Now, having said that, there is a game and you're struggling really hard to be able to power all the cities you've got out on the board. So you may find that you've got a whole bunch of cities out there but not able to power them, which means your income next turn, or when we get to the income round, is not going to be as high as you expect it to be, which then gives other people a chance to catch up. Like, there's always that chance, but if you're really thinking it through, the things that happen early in the game very much dictate if you're going to win or lose the game. And this is my biggest issue with this game overall, that early actions can make or break this game. Now, if you are someone who plays Power Grid a lot and you may have found that there's a way around this, which I haven't found yet, and that's fine, please comment below and say what you need to say to back up why you play this game, why you love this game. It feels just like an older game to me, and that's really the essence of it. It just feels like an older game. So anyway, if you have Power Grid and you haven't played it, go on and watch my videos so you can understand what's going on and get a different element of the rules kind of coming into you, and so you can see someone play through the game. If you don't own the game, look, have a play of it. It's worthwhile having a game of it. It's one of those games that really you should have played by now. You should have at least an element of this game in your psyche, because it is one of those games that lives on people's shelves and just is, and has a heap of expansion material. I'm pretty sure most of the expansions are just new maps, but there's a heap of them. So it's a worthwhile game to have at least played. I wouldn't say avoid it, but bear in mind that the first things you do are very much going to indicate how you go for the rest of the game, and you're going to be struggling to keep up, struggling to stay on top of things. Having said all that, however, there's some elements to it that are quite good, which is the power plants that you purchase directly affects what resources are going to be used for those power plants, and the resources purchased can be moved to other power plants if necessary. At any point. So if you then need to get rid of a power plant, if you've got another power plant that can use those same resources, they're not lost. Whereas if you get rid of that power plant and you don't have somewhere else to send those resources to, those resources are lost. So having that kind of thought process in mind as you're going is actually a really good thing to do. And there's extra elements that kind of live in this game that are worthwhile chasing and thinking about, and it gets a little bit gritty on it. So anyway, look, I think that's all my suggestions and thoughts on Power Grid for the moment. If you have any thoughts or suggestions yourself, please write them below. If you have any games that you wish to be gamesplayed, please shoot me an email at thegamesplainer@gmail.com. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter at thegamesplainer to keep up to date with the games I'm playing. Subscribe to my videos to keep up to date with the games that I'm gamesplaining. And until next time, enjoy gaming.